pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Determination of a quorum.
Director Luckman,
Here.
Director Fuller,
Here.
Director Johnson, Director Unger.
Here.
4 of the 5 directors are here. Director Reynolds had a funeral to attend for a member of the extended family in San Diego. He regrets that he may not be able to get here for any of the meeting, but he certainly thought he would be late. So you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Prior to the approval of the agenda, I'd like to move item 11, General Manager Report, to after item 13, which is the Director Report. So the General Manager will be last.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Aye.
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 So approved. Public comment. Members of the public may address the board at this time with regard to matters within the board's jurisdiction that are not listed on the agenda. State law prohibits the board of directors from discussing or taking action on items not included on the agenda. Members of the public will have the opportunity for public comments on any item listed on the agenda when it is addressed on the agenda. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less.
Thank you. Stephen Whitman, Joshua Tree. I am vaguely familiar with the fact that when I stand up here, you all have a bit of tension, thinking you're about to receive a little bit more criticism from me. Tonight, I want you to know I'm here for a very different purpose. Although I haven't attended many meetings the last 2 years, I have watched every one of them on DVD and lately YouTube. So I follow what transpires in this room very closely. And what I've observed is this. The combination that we have today of staff and elected board members has been the most effective, productive combination we've had in the nearly 20 years I've been here in Joshua Tree. And you have been facing increasing difficulty and challenges and stood up par excellence. And I was hoping Mike was here so he could hear this, but I really want to say thank you very, very much. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Wow.
Any other public comment?
Tom Florin, ratepayer. I just thought I'd mention that we have the Saturday coming up is the third Saturday of the month, and the waste dump is open over here, just past Gary's Tires. There's a sign there that says straight ahead, so just past that. And it's about 12 by 20, it's a billboard. It's just past that, can't miss it. I did some driving today out in Sunfair, and I did notice that people have been dumping oil and oil filters and whatnot out there. It's unnecessary. They'll cheerfully take it over here. And Go Light, the strategy there is to get people in and out quickly, so you don't have to wait. It's against the rules to even get out of your car when you go there. They will unload for you. So I strongly encourage people to use that.
Thank you very much. I have to say I take my oil cans and paint cans there. Third Saturday of the month. Any other public comments?
I'd like to add, I think they're taking tires also this Saturday over there. Yeah. It's been a problem in Copper Mountain Mesa, people popping up tires. Thank you.
Okay, that ends public comment. Consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be adopted in total by one action of the Board of Directors unless any board member or any individual or organization interested in one or more consent calendar items wishes to be heard. The only thing on our consent calendar is the approval of the draft minutes of the November 2nd, 2016 regular meeting of the Board of Directors.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
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 So adopted. Okay, at this time, item 7, water reservoir inspection, received for information only, and overview of how tanks are inspected internally.
So at the request of Director Luckman and the interest of the other board members, We're going to give you and the public a brief background on how we've been inspecting the insides of the water tanks for the past 2 years. And Seth has that presentation.
Good evening. All right, so I kind of got a two-part tonight. I'll give you a quick run through on the PowerPoint, and then it was requested that we bring some footage for it of the actual cleaning of one of our reservoirs. Unfortunately, the 4 that just got done, the DVDs haven't been edited and sent back to us yet in time for this meeting, so you're going to see one from March. When we cleaned 4 in March, you'll actually see it's F2. So, but okay, so here we go. So why do we do it? That's one of the most important questions to ask ourselves. Why are we doing this? And often problems are not related to water quality alone. Typically, people think the reason we do this is for water quality. There's lots of variants and reasons as why you do it, and some are much more expensive than water quality. Leaks, blistering, delaminating, coating, corrosion, the inlet-outlet failures, anodes, when they're installed, those wear and you need to replace those, similar to like, when you have a hot water heater and you have an anode in there, and over time those need to be replaced. So if those go or those are spent, then you'll have a cathodic corrosion within the reservoir if there's any exposed metal through the coating. Voids in the vent screens. So we're not only cleaning these. Keep in mind we're inspecting them at the same time. So we're doing two things: twofold, clean and inspecting. Looking for vandalism. Typically, that's not something that we've encountered. We've cleaned 8 thus far, and no vandalism whatsoever. In addition to that, there's some regulatory requirements. AWWA recommends that they're inspected once every 3 years or required by local regulatory agencies. In our last sanitary survey, the state came out, they recommended that we clean some reservoir floors, which we've already addressed those, and get a little more aggressive on maintaining our inspection program, and then cleaning, and then start scheduling for recoatings as necessary. So that's another reason too, is you're going to get documenting issues before they become an emergency. Figuring out where we want to put our money, where we need to put our money, and helps us with budgeting and planning for the future, and where we might have to take reservoirs offline for full recoatings, things like that. So, and where we can get by with, things aren't always as bad as you're led to believe, or you think they are. So the one way to find out is to go dive them. Mm-hmm. And fortunately for us, we haven't had any issues that are going to force us into a situation where we're going to have to recoat in this budget cycle. So, okay, so there's 2 types of cleaning. There's 2 types of inspecting. There's a dry and a wet. And so what's the advantage for the wet inspection? Because that's what we do. We do a wet inspection. The diver can document the condition of the vertical walls and support columns without having to erect scaffolding. So if they were to drain that tank, he's no longer buoyant, and so he would then have to, the company would have to come in, extra cost, put the scaffolding up, and then they have to work their way around a reservoir, depending on how big that reservoir is. That takes a very long time. So no facility downtime. These cleanings and inspections and even spot repairs occur without any impact to the customer. So there's no downtime in terms of us being able to provide service. So that reservoir remains full, and customers get their water, and they don't even know it's happening. So it's a huge benefit for us and our customers. Wet inspections can be completed in a few hours versus a few days to drain and inspect a tank dry, resulting in far less water loss. So to give you an example, F2, during the diving, when they're cleaning the floor, approximately 36,000 gallons is exhausted from the reservoir and put to the discharge pipe or the outlet where it goes to a basin and percolates. If you were to do that as a dry clean on this reservoir, which is a small reservoir comparatively to a lot of our reservoirs, this is less than 500,000 gallons. So you would have to drain it at 400,000 gallons. Okay, manage that discharge. That's a lot of water over time. there's probably going to be some cleanup involved and things like that. Then, remember, that's not over. When you're done doing the dry inspection, you're going to have to fill the reservoir back up. So you're looking at the use of 800,000 gallons of water, and that's finished water as well. So that's your most valuable water, what's in the reservoir. You've treated it, you've pumped it, you've boosted it to a reservoir, and so you covet that water. You want to make sure that gets through the meters into the taps and is used for beneficial use. You want to minimize. So this is largely probably the most benefit of doing dry versus wet is this water loss and downtime. So, thanks. Okay, so now we know why we do it. Benefits. So, okay, let's talk about how, because that's what we're interested in. Sodium hypochlorite solution. We'll get to some photos on this. A 2 to 3 man dive team, depending on the reservoir capacity. So the sodium hypochlorite solution, all the equipment, the scuba gear, everything that goes into that reservoir per AWWA standards is hit with a 200-part chlorine solution, so that no contamination is drawn into the tank via air tank or a mask or anything like that. So all the equipment is disinfected with actually the same disinfectant we use and inject to chlorinate the water, so sodium hypochlorite. Once again, 2-3 man dive team depending on the size. Submersible vacuum system, and then you got to get it out, so there's a discharge tubing and pump apparatus. And then if there's coating application, someone stays down and performs coating. And in the video you're going to see there were a few areas, and that was part of the contract, and we budgeted for that, and those are to kind of get us a little more life out of the reservoir, or a bang for a buck, instead of going in and having to recoat the whole thing and maybe not being budgeted for, or us needing to do another reservoir. So coating is applied to less than significant, typically where there's no metal exposure. Go in and we can do some coating at the same time. So let's see what it looks like. So sodium hypochlorite, this is the top of a reservoir. These photos are not from the team that did our reservoirs. The video you'll see will be from F2. These photos are a combination of different agencies and just more for informational. So that, sorry, is there any way you go back to that? So what that gentleman is doing is he's spraying all the equipment that's going to enter that reservoir with sodium hypochlorite. So eventually the dive team will come in and put all that scuba gear on, all that hosing gets decontaminated and sprayed with sodium hypochlorite, all the hosing, everything. So, thanks. That's a diver taking the entry ladder into the well, or into the reservoir, and so that's kind of what it looks like. As you see, he's got a light on there. It's typically fairly dark in here, and so visibility is an issue. So those guys all wear really high, expensive equipment and high underwater illumination gear. That's another diver going in. You can see all the tubing. A lot of that is their air hoses, and that's just gives you an idea of what they're lugging around in there on their backs with the air hose. Plus, then that white hose is the discharge hose coming back out from the vacuum apparatus to the centrifugal pump downstairs that'll push that water out and suck it up and then push it out.
Seth, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So you mentioned a dive team. This is a confined space, and there's probably rules and regulations. You have to have at least 2 people in the tank, or you have to have at least 2 people available?
You have to have 2. These dive teams are required to have a minimum of 2 people and 1 person at the top on standby. So a 2 to 3 man dive team, when I say that, they could have up to 3 people diving in the reservoir and 1 person on top. So there'll always be a buddy system, and there's always someone on top making sure that there's no kinks in the air hoses, and if there's any trouble that they can get emergency medical staff there, because that person on top has direct contact with those. So it's a good question. Okay, so this is kind of what a submersible vacuum system looks like. As you can see, those guys are down in there. These are floors of reservoirs, and the interesting thing is, you probably can't tell where's the clean, where's the dirty. The dirty's the brown. That's the sediment that builds up over time. The black is the tar coating that a lot of reservoirs that were constructed in the 70s, 60s, in that time frame. The floor was not epoxy. It was a tar type coating that you would see. in other applications. It was approved at the time. No longer are you allowed to, it's not retroactive, but you're no longer allowed to construct a reservoir. There's no specs that allow for a reservoir to be constructed with a tar floor bottom any longer. So the entire reservoir, 360 degrees, is coated now with epoxy. And you'll see in the video, the walls of the reservoir have epoxy. So to give you an idea, a new reservoir, when you look at that video, that floor is going to have that same white epoxy on it now. So you won't see these floors anymore. But the reason I included these photos is because the video you're going to see is a reservoir from 1975. It has a tar floor. So those are how big those vacuums are. They get a lot of sediment sucked up fairly quickly. F2 was done in about 2 hours. So that was a complete cleaning, inspection, floor cleaning in about 2 hours. So, thanks. This is a little bit bigger of a vacuum, but same type of apparatus, just a little different angle. I thought it kind of helped to see, what exactly the system looks like. Thanks. Okay, so now what you're going to see here is that's the hatch of the reservoir. So we saw the diver go down. He's got his vacuum. There's a line coming up. It's going to that side of the pump. It's going to be pushed out. Sediment's going to be pushed out through this. It's a fire hose over the top there, and then that'll come down the reservoir. And I got another picture to show you. And this is what the discharge typically looks like for equipment like that. So this is on the floor near to the reservoir or near where the reservoir grate is, where you're discharging into a discharge tube or an overflow tube. Pipe, and then it goes either, like I said, to a pit on site, or it'll go to a wash, or it's managed. The interesting thing about this is, in order to be compliant with this discharge, and our permit requires this, and I specifically included this photo to let folks know that we're well aware of it and we actually perform this. That is not only a diffuser, okay, which minimizes the erosion that's occurring if there's a lot of water, a high velocity coming out there, but also, if you notice there, it says a dechlorinating diffuser. What that means is there are tablets. There's a little hopper in there where you load it with thiosulfate tablets, and as that water passes through, it hits those tablets and it dechlorinates the water. So that water is going back to wherever it's going to, and recharging most likely in a lot of our cases, and we've stripped the chlorine. So it's not chlorinating any longer per our regional board requirements and as best management practices require. So then here's just a quick photo of what it looks like when someone's applying coating. It's very simple, and what they do is they delineate an area, and then they have epoxy, and they put the approved epoxy down, and it looks white, and you really can't tell when they're doing a wall where the spots have gone. It's pretty difficult to tell. Now on the floor you can tell, because white epoxy stands out over tar. And you'll see in the video that there are areas that they epoxied for us, and where there was some mild metal exposure, and so it's very obvious where they use the epoxy. But that's the end of the PowerPoint, so maybe it's a good time to take questions on the PowerPoint, or we can move into the video.
Good. Any questions? Questions? Very, very nicely done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll get a video,
Fascinating.
so you'll get to see F2. So to give you an idea, this reservoir. Give me 1 second before you start that, Keith. Appreciate that. So we used aquatic inspections. Yeah, aquatic inspections. There's two. There's solutions and inspections. We used aquatic inspections, who's done all 8 of our reservoirs thus far. They're on this reservoir F2's on the corner of Altaloma Road and Olympic, to give you an idea of where it is for those who don't know. So that's south of Highway 62, and that's about a mile east of La Contenta. And this was one of 4 reservoirs done in March, and the other 3 were D21, D31, and H1, and they were all done within about 3 days. So that's how fast they can get it done. And you get a really long report, but it's kind of nice to get the video too. They narrate the video to give you an idea of what you're looking at to folks who are untrained. So it works out perfect if you can listen. The gentleman, he's not the diver. He is narrating what the diver is showing you. And So we'll go ahead and see what a floor looks like on a 1975 reservoir. That's been cleaned. You're not going to see it. This is a clean floor. This is after
The
they're
following
going through.
edited and narrated DVD will document aquatic inspections, wet cleaning, and coating repairs of tank number F2 for the Joshua Basin Water District. Tank number F2 is a welded steel portable water storage facility located in Joshua Tree, California. It is 24 feet tall with a diameter of 56 feet. Maximum storage capacity is 400,000 gallons. The wet cleaning and coating repairs took place on March 16th, 2016. We're going to document the removal of all loose sediment and debris beginning at the interior ladder. We're also going to document the coating repairs that took place. The floor is coated with coal tar enamel. The coating is in fair condition. The coating is losing flexibility and cracking in many areas. All the loose sediment and debris has been removed from around the target base and the floor in this area. This is where the common inlet-outlet line enters the facility, and the facility was not isolated during the wet cleaning and coating repairs. Here, a large field of concentrated blisters is located on the floor. These blisters have not ruptured, corrosion is not present. Here's a close-up where the coating on the floor is losing flexibility and cracking in many areas. In a few areas where the coating has cracked, it has resulted in light surface corrosion. The loose sediment and debris has been removed from the floor. Here, an area of moderate to dense corrosion and metal loss has been addressed near the overflow line. A total of 7 areas of moderate to dense corrosion and moderate metal loss were addressed on the floor.
There were a lot of feet when they were laying in 1975.
Prints are present in many areas in the coal tar coating. The coal tar coating is also cracked in this area, and coating blisters are present. In this area, 2 areas of corrosion were addressed with 1 patch. Another area has been addressed with a quad epoxy A6 thick, which has NSF 61 approval for use in potable water storage facilities. Here's another area that has been addressed by the divers. Light surface corrosion is still present in a few areas where either blisters have ruptured or small cracks are present in the coal tar coating on the floor. Per our conversation with Water District personnel on site, we were directed to only address areas of metal loss. Additional blisters are present in this area. All the loose sediment and debris has been removed from around the center pole. Indications of water leakage were not detected during the wet cleaning or coating repairs. Additional blisters are present on the floor in this area that have not ruptured. Here, another area of moderate metal loss was addressed with the 2-part epoxy patching material. All the loose sediment and debris has been removed from the floor, and the transition from floor to shell in this location. Additional blisters and cracked coating are present on the floor in this area. The coal tar coating on the floor is cracked in many areas. Here are some additional examples of coating blisters and cracked coating located on the floor. The coating is losing flexibility and cracking. These blisters have not ruptured. The floor is stained in many areas. The diver has now returned to the ladder, and this concludes our wet cleaning and coating repair documentation for tank number F2. We'd like to thank the Joshua Basin Water District for retaining it.
So, if I might point out a few things, through that whole video you saw a lot of black, okay? A lot of floor. What's important to note is you saw very little areas that we had to epoxy due to metal, exposed metal. that's very good news. Okay, that provides us with the ability to wait and determine which reservoirs are most critical and need to be recoated first. Okay, so those repairs come with a 1-year warranty, and we'll have an inspection done. We won't have another inspection on this reservoir, because when we get done inspecting the remaining reservoirs, then the priority list will be developed of who's going to get recoated first. Hence the reason that we're not going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars coating everywhere on this where there's a blister or some defect that's not that it hasn't resulted in exposed metal. Okay, so those are the key things we're looking for. Blisters that have burst, because then that means that you're going to get water intrusion there. Exposed metal, which was covered with the epoxy, and so those are the primary things you're looking for to determine whether or not this reservoir is the first one, the second one, the fifth one, the sixth one. Right now, we've done 8. This one wasn't the worst. It wasn't the worst, and also it may end up being the best. We'll have to get done and then align which reservoirs need to be done in which fiscal years and get budget on that, and then that'll result in a draining of a reservoir. You have to take those offline to completely recoat. But anyway, it's exciting to me, but it's not super exciting work down there that those guys do. But obviously, you can imagine what they would have to go through if they had to drain that entire reservoir, and the amount of work and filling it back up and the discharge and all those things. So overall, this company does a fantastic job, and we save a lot of we save ourselves by spending unnecessarily. By just going in, and you can't see this from the top. So the only way to see this, because of the lighting, is to either drain it down, or drain it and decide once it's drained we're going to do whatever repairs are necessary to the max to get it going as long as we can again. So anyway, there's a lot more footage of this, and so if you ever want some to come back, well, I'm sure we can dig up some. But that concludes my report, and any questions I can answer.
Any questions?
That was great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. My pleasure.
Interesting.
Any questions?
Seth, when they put the epoxy patching material, do they put it on top of the existing tar, or do they strip down to the metal?
Yeah, so similar to like when you have old steel pipe and they have the wrap, and you got a little pinhole, it doesn't do you any good to just put the clamp right on that pinhole, because it's sitting above that wrap now and it's going to shoot out. So what you do is you go in and you cut out that wrap, you break that wrap apart, and then you make enough where that clamp can sit flush with the pipe. Similar here. So you have, say, a pea-sized hole. You're going to go in and you're going to very gently scrape out an area that's very clean and very smooth, so you can apply that. So you're absolutely correct. It's not just I see a hole and I putty it. There takes some maintenance and some prep to do it right, and that's what they do. So, yeah.
Kathleen?
There were the blisters and the cracks that the metal was coming through. Which one's ready to go? I mean, what's worse, when you see a lot of blisters or you see a lot of cracks? That's not a lot of both.
Right. So the cracks are more abundant, and what that suggests is now the flexibility of that, with temperature change, that's going to be more significant on those. The blisters, if they haven't gone, they're probably not going to go. It's the cracks that you're more concerned about, because they're going to take a larger surface away of the floor when they break off. So cracks are obviously something that we're a little more concerned about. If blisters had popped, we would have had them probably fill those blisters with epoxy. So I would say cracks is the biggest concern when you have a tar floor like that. So when you're making a final determination on, hey, this reservoir has a lot of blisters, this reservoir has a lot of cracks, we're going to do the cracks first. That reservoir is going to win out. So
It's like a very efficient way to look at it. Thank you.
it is, yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation. Vicki, any comments?
I have a question. Susan, it seems to me that several years ago, a couple of us went into a tank that had been drained and that they were cleaning it, and it was the weirdest experience of my entire life. I'll tell you, claustrophobic, oh my God. It was really scary. Yeah, that was, I don't remember which tank, do you remember which one it was? No, I don't either. All I remember is I don't want to do it again, and I would never be a diver.
You certainly wouldn't want to go in there with the tank then.
No,
Swimming.
no. I didn't like doing that in the ocean.
Okay, that concludes item 7. Item 8, review of inactive meter opt-outs received for information only.
Okay, also at the request of Director Unger, I believe it was several months ago, we've had enough time to look at the inactive meter implementation and how it's worked out, and Susan's, excuse me, has a PowerPoint for you. She doesn't have a video.
Yeah, gosh, I have to follow that tough act. I have no photos whatsoever. This is, finance, customer service, no pictures, no video, sorry. Anyway, let's start, there we go, with the reason for this charge. Basically, the districts established this charge. Yeah. In recognition of the fact that even when a customer doesn't use any water, the district incurs a substantial amount of costs, keeping our system in this constant state of readiness. Because a customer has entitlement to a water meter, we cannot begin to maintain our system when they want to take service and they're ready to pay. We have to be ready at all times for that instantaneous need of our customers. That is why this fee has been enacted. So the stats here, we have 856 locked meters, and locked and inactive are synonymous for the public, but internally an inactive meter is an account that is not being billed, okay? So internally, those are locked meters. I know the public, we started with that term, inactive meters, and for this presentation, those are synonymous, okay? We have 856 locked meter accounts as of just last week. There have been 58 of those accounts have been activated since June 30th. Some more were activated prior to that. We didn't really keep track of that, so I don't know, without a whole lot of work, and I didn't do it, I'm sorry. We've processed 124 opt-out applications, so we have 124 people of over 1,000 that have elected to opt out. So by location, by residence, we've got 30 from Joshua Tree, 75 in California, 4 from Yucca Valley, 1 29 Palms, and 14 out of state. Remember, these charges began in February. The first bill went out in March, so we're 9 months into this now. So we have 83 of those 124 opt-outs, 67%, 2/3 of those people paid $400 or less for their water meters. The prices paid have ranged from $95, one, to $6,400, one, okay. 1967 is the oldest meter purchase, that's the $95 one. And then as late as 2006, people purchased a meter and have now opted out. In total, 108 opt-out customers paid over $78,000 for those meters. That's an average of $700 each, and we have no documentation to tell us how much 16 other customers paid. They have water meters. We know they were customers. We just don't have that original documentation. Those locked meter fees are generating a little over $22,000 a month of revenue. Our 16-17 budget is over $291,000 for this. We had $93,000 in revenue for the 4 months ending 6/30/16 and $89,000 for the 4 months ending 10/31. The difference there is those people who have activated their accounts. Okay, so they're moving out of the locked inactive category into active. All right. We have a couple of categories that have a big predominance really in this list. Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District, we have 45 people in the Copper Mountain Mesa Assessment District have opted out. They had an opportunity, a brief window of opportunity after that assessment district project was constructed to purchase meters at a significantly discounted price. They paid $150 for a meter when others were paying thousands of dollars. Okay, over 500 meters were purchased at that time. So 45 of those people have opted out. Now, many of those 500 meters are still not in service 20 years later. Okay? Haven't used them for 20 years, opt out. We have another category. 29 people have opted out from what I have referred to as the meter rush of 1990. In 1990, prices for water meters were increasing $6,000 per 3/4 inch water meter in response to the Morongo Basin pipeline debt. The district incurred immediately after the election $800,000 a year in debt, and this was the strategy developed to pay that pipeline debt. In the end, that didn't work. Nevertheless, 29 people purchased water meters in response to that future, that price increase that was discussed for months here at the board level. So there was awareness in the community. People knew that was happening. They came in. We actually had to set up a table in the lobby, in the boardroom here, to take applications. There were, 400 meters in a very short period of time sold. And again, most of those people paid $400 for those meters, and many of those still not in service 25 years later. So we have a few challenges associated with this. Probably the most troubling is the whole billing address issue. Remember, we don't have people who come and applied for service. We are obligated to use the address for the owner per the County of San Bernardino property tax records, and those are not updated. Newsflash, people, you need to update your address with the county. If your property goes to tax sale and they can't find you because you haven't updated your address with them, nothing stops them. They will move forward and your property can be sold out from under you. So this is a really important issue, and there are many people who haven't updated their address. So we have several hundred of these. We have deceased owners. We send out these bills. We get nasty notes, returned on the envelopes. These people are dead, and, we've been informed of deceased owners from a variety of sources, so we have to keep trying to find, these people, looking all this information up. And another challenge is we have 176 accounts that haven't made any payment at all for 9 months now. So obviously those delinquencies are related to the billing addresses and the deceased owner issue to some extent, something that we have to keep on top of. We have to keep checking back with the county for new addresses and new owners and all that sort of stuff. So little by little they're coming around, but that in itself is a really big challenge, a big burden to have to keep looking these up again and again. So anyway, that's the end of what I have. So any questions?
Wow, that was great.
Good.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. You're
So we've actually generated how much in revenue from taking this action?
Well, what do we have, the 40 and the, I'm sorry, the two amounts, I apologize.
89 and
93 and 89, so, $170,000.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Wow,
You're welcome.
that was good and very interesting just to, it's, and some people who bought these, so many years ago and never used them.
Right.
On Aunt Fanny's property and,
Yeah. And we have a lot of that.
Yeah.
We've heard from, many people, this was my dad's, I don't
Yeah.
know why he got it, or, those sorts of things. I mean, we've discovered some, issues with ownership or purchases of meters. I mean, these go back decades and decades. So we've been able to discover some errors that we had in our system, meters that were associated with the wrong parcels. I mean, some good information has come out that we've been able to correct through this process. So that's been really great. The opt-outs actually have slowed down. We just got 2 last week, but prior to that, we hadn't had one for 6 weeks. So really, it's leveled out, for the most part. But there's no time frame. People can opt out at any point in time.
Thank you. And it was still a question at the candidates forum last month. How did you feel about that, or how did you vote on it, or what did you think about it, or something
Right.
like that? It was still a question.
Well,
Thank you.
interesting, the reason, I saw something along these lines in a rate study that I was reading, and so I took that, expanded upon it to come up with this kind of language, which I think is really, really important and really is the essence of what we've been trying to say here. You know, there is a cost associated with providing this service, whether or not you're taking it. I think that is really important.
I'm good, thank you.
Public comment? Okay, seeing none, excellent report, thank you so very
You're
much,
welcome.
Susan.
Sorry, no photos or video.
Yeah, do a better job next time, we'll have a little video there.
Compelling information.
Okay, standing committee reports, Kathleen?
We're on to A and B.
Okay, fine. Yours is always the most interesting.
Okay.
You make the best popcorn.
Photos and videos.
The docent meeting that was scheduled for December 8th has been moved, December 2nd has been moved to the 8th. That is a Thursday, 10 a.m. here in the district office. It's for volunteers current and potential future volunteers. It is our year-end holiday meeting, a little bit social, but we do business there. The farmers market booth, we have 2 more weeks out there, and then we will be closed for 3 months. And we will be back in March. However, it is interesting with all that goes on with water. We get photographed, and people are interested in water, and they're happy to see us out there. We had 2 this last weekend come by, and they wanted pictures. Everyone's out. No one wants to be in the camera. So they get a picture of our empty booth every time. But we do draw interest and questions still, so we will look back to our next season coming up in March with new things. Reminder that we'll be closed Thursday for Thanksgiving the 24th and also Friday the 25th. And our next Legislative and Public Information Committee meeting is December 7th, 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. Thank you.
I finally have being out and about has started to get some of the questions that you get at the farmer's market. And in fact, I saw one, it was about is the water safe to take a shower in? Can they just put a filter for the Chrome 6 on the faucet or something like that? And to explain to people that that wasn't the way the mandate came down from the state on handling Chrome 6, just sticking a filter.
I first of all want to say that we will be coming up with strong talking points in the near future for all of us so that we feel comfortable with what our response is and feel that we are doing the best service in the information we're delivering. Of course, you know, there's no studies confirming anything right now, but I will ask Kurt if he wants to make a comment to respond to Rebecca on how that should have been answered. I know I get those questions all the time, and I keep saying, we don't know, we can't recommend filters, we haven't been empowered with that information yet.
And explaining it's a mandate from the state on groundwater is what I've been telling people. You know, and then the other ones that come up was, someone wanted to know why we put units on the bills and not gallons. I thought we were going to do that. Weren't we going to do that on our bills? One time we talked about that, when it shows your water usage.
I believe the bill says what 1 unit equals how many
Yeah.
gallons.
But when people say they've gone over, they go, would I go over by 1 gallon, or did I, what put me into another tier? They wanted to know, they was wondering if we're ever going to show the gallons. And then also, why are we sitting on all this money and not doing the pipes? We're not sitting on a lot of money, first of all.
Is it somewhere in this room?
And I tell them Seth has created a binder full of capital projects that, one by one we're working on but I'm starting to get now a lot of the same questions I find that you're getting.
It's okay, we've got a strategy that we're working on for when we go back to the market and how we're going to show where the money's going. It's just, things take time, and we're starting to realize these are good questions. The
Yes.
public,
Oh, they are
they're
good
starting
questions,
to care, and so we'll address that.
It's a
Thank
good
you.
opportunity to invite people to come to our water board meetings.
It
Or
always,
to
And I
come to the
always-
financial meetings and the water resource and operations
yeah,
meeting.
I hear you guys have a good old time there.
What opportunities to answer, in fact, that would be my answer.
And I
as you
do say
know.
that, and
Do it.
I send them to the website. They were all.
That also helps, and then last resort is to get the question, get their phone number, and we'll work on it.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Kathleen.
Thank you. The only other items, Finance Committee meeting, we haven't had one recently. Well, the next one is November 21st at 9 a.m. Water Resources and Operation meeting is going to be the 21st at 10 a.m.
Yep.
And after that, General Counsel is not here today. So we're going to then move on to future director meetings and training opportunities. Mojave Water Agency Board of Directors meeting, November 17th, Director Johnson. Please note the time has changed to 3:30. And AQUA 2016 Fall meeting, November 29th, December 2nd in Anaheim, all directors and GM attending. ASB-CSD, December 12th, to be decided who will be going to that meeting. And director reports on meetings attended, comments, future agenda items. Director Unger, would you like to start?
Yeah, and first I would like to congratulate Gary Hunn on his election to the board. We'll be so happy to welcome you aboard. Congratulations, Mickey, on your re-election. And Bob, we're rooting for you. It's real close, it's real close. It was explained to me how why it takes so long to certify the election. The first ballots that come in are, everyone's, poll ballots, they're mail-in ballots. They go through big machines, they slice them open. Then another machine takes the ballots out and reads them, and if somebody either didn't sign their envelope, that gets put aside to another machine. Ones where people mark their ballot wrong, like maybe supposed to only mark one, they mark two, that gets set aside. Those people then are contacted by mail by the county registrar and said, if you want to change your ballot or correct it, come on into our office down in San Bernardino. So those go out. There's even provisional ballots that get counted, and of course then military gets 25 days to turn in their ballots. So it takes 30 days to certify election, and they're doing pretty much daily updates as more ballots come in. It was interesting because in the primary, I think we had 3,800 registered voters in Joshua Basin. We've already had almost 5,200 ballots for Joshua Basin voters turned in. So actually we had an increase in people that are voting Joshua Basin. I went to the Mojave Water Board, Water Agency meeting on November 3rd, 3:30. All directors were present. The board voted 7-0 to extend the service agreement with the Mojave Desert Resource Conservation District for the 2016-17 fiscal year, not to exceed $146,000. That's an interesting group. And the agreement is funded, $43,000 of that comes from the Biological Resource Trust Fund, administered by California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and $103,000 comes from Mojave. The work includes weed management, tamarisk removal in the Mojave River, riparian restoration, well and pivot repair, you would know what that is, I hope, and various ponds restored at Camp Katy Wildlife Area, and they also look at irrigation alternatives in the Mojave Basin area. The board voted 7-0 to buy a 2017 Ford Explorer fleet vehicle from Mojave Auto Group in Barstow for $32,897. 4 Ford dealerships submitted bids. Yucca Valley Ford was the highest by almost $2,000. The board voted 7-0 to authorize the workforce development and compensation study by Coffin Associates for $19,760. That was included in the budget for this year. The agency anticipates losing 1/3 of its workforce within the next 10 years due to retirements. Community Liaison Officer Yvonne Hester said the goal was to keep bright people here and attract more. The study review will be part of the 17-18 budget. The board voted 7-0 to proceed with selling new revenue bonds and refinancing the 2009 $39.3 million Table A Dudley Ridge Water District Water Revenue Bond. The cost for bond counsel and financial team at Fieldman and Rollap would be $150,750, payable on the issue of new bonds. Could save them $5.5 million if the bond sales go through. However, it was interesting. Mojave's CFO, GM, and legal counsel all noted that the State Department of Water Resources is requiring lots of extra guarantees this time for bond refis. things like as to the agency's future solvency and stability, that revenue is there for debt service, that state water project bills be paid first if anything in the agency goes south. General Manager Kirby Brill noted a threat to agency finances from fixed costs, and Council Bill Brunick added that no one knows what's happening in Sacramento, with concerns that costs for the state water project are going up. There's uncertainty over the Sykes Reservoir and the Delta. Board President Bev Lowry said she's concerned. Vice President Kimberly Cox noted that the state water project's a lifeline to the community. Director Carl Coleman joked that if he signed the agreement then quit the agency, he'd leave no forwarding address. Director Mike Page wondered that since the agency doesn't want to raise taxes to pay its bill, what would the state do? Council Brunick answered that the state could take over our agency and then they would raise taxes. He said they've never done anything like that before, and we hope they never will. There were no manager, staff, or legal reports. Directors complimented the recent meeting at CMC and the people who made the college happen. Meeting adjourned at 4:30.
Thank you.
Just like to remind everyone that 21st is the Finance Committee. Want to have a good turnout. Another exciting year, exciting meeting. Want to say congratulations to the candidates. I think one of the things that was very telling about this election is that there was a lot of folks interested in what we're doing here, which was really good news. So congratulations to all the candidates.
And I will echo what Bob just said. I'm awfully glad the election is over. It's a great relief not to be still doing that and picking up the signs. And I think that's pretty much, just thank you very much.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. We really need public participation. And I would echo, I'm glad the election is over and we're moving on. And look forward to seeing everybody come to the Finance Committee meeting and the Water Resources, because that's really our opportunity to get down into detail and do a little more give and take. And so that takes us to
General Manager.
General Manager. Director reports on me. We did that. General Manager report.
Okay, so there are several things I was going to report on, but they can wait until December 7th. And one thing I do want to mention before I cover the last one is the district offices will be closed on December 9th. We will be paving the parking lot. The other thing that I want to take time to mention is that this is Seth's last board meeting. Seth has taken a job with Fontana Water, and he'll be leaving us. It has been a very worthwhile endeavor to have him come here. He has done an outstanding job and has taught your general manager a good many things and has gotten the operation in a much better condition than it was. And I want to thank you for your service to the district.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Seth.
Yeah, I want to add to that, Seth, and he just brought a lot of positive things to the Water District. And we certainly appreciate it.
There was a lot of positive here before I got here, so
Thank you.
thank you.
Good job.
Appreciate it.
And good luck on your new job.
Thank you.
They're lucky to have you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further comments, do I have a motion?
I move we adjourn.
I second it.
Aye.
Aye.
And thank you everybody for coming.
We are adjourned.